Good morning, members of Parliament, support staff, visitors in the Tribune, radio listeners, TV viewers, social media viewers, and members of the media. Welcome to the public meeting number 24 of today, Monday, September 12, 2022. We have established a quorum of 12 members. Please, let's stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Are there any members of Parliament that wish to have the floor for notifications? If there's no need, then today we have as agenda point for this public meeting closing by the Chairperson of Parliament of the Parliamentary year 2021-2022. We go over to the agenda point. The closure of the present parliamentary year is required in order for Parliament to open the new parliamentary year 2022-2023 tomorrow, September 13, 2022, as prescribed by Article 46 of the Constitution. With the closure of this parliamentary year, it is an opportune time for us to reflect on what this parliamentary year has meant for us. It is with this in mind that I give the faction leaders the opportunity to direct themselves to Parliament and the public for a maximum of 10 minutes so that we can reflect on this parliamentary year. The sequence in which the faction leaders will speak has been predetermined in a faction leaders meeting of August 30th, 2022. And now I would like to give the floor over to the members of Parliament for their individual speeches. Our first speaker for today is MP Rolando Bryson of the United People's Faction. MP Bryson, I give you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good morning, and good morning to the Secretary General, my colleague, members of Parliament, and those viewing this meeting. Madam Chair, as in preparing for speaking about this parliamentary year and wondering what are some of the things that would have to be highlighted, let's say from my person and from my faction, it will obviously be remiss for me not to mention the challenges that I too, as the leader of the party and the leader of the faction, had to face throughout this parliamentary year. But I have to say, it was in hindsight, one of the best things that has happened for me. Taking the time to focus on my own personal development and understanding that this is the role and the heavy seat that I have chosen to take, and that with that, challenges will always come. And I could not allow distractions and a personal lifestyle that would not allow me to be the best that I can be to distract me from doing the work for this faction, for this Parliament, and for the people. For that reason, I want to sincerely thank so many of you that have been a part of the encouragement and the necessary support needed to realize that I have a lot of potential. Rolando, do not squander it. Do not allow the challenges of a political career to go against what I stand for and what I believe in. Choosing a life of sobriety, choosing to communicate better, choosing to be very careful about the circle that I keep has allowed me to serve everyone in this faction, all of the members of Parliament, and of course, all of the people of St. Martin to the best of my ability. And it's, for me personally, one of the best things that has ever happened to me in my life. But none of this has taken away from the work that the UP faction continues to do within this Parliament and by extension within the government that we support. The fact is, Madam Chair, I have always emphasized exactly that. What is the role of a parliamentarian? What is the work that is supposed to be done? And I continue to want to see that from all of us, that we understand that accountability and all of that is extremely important, and I don't want to come across like I am simply brushing that to the side. But there are so many other efforts that I continue to see from members of Parliament that I see can affect people's lives. And one of the key points during this parliamentary term where I think that was exemplified was in the handling of the 2022 budget, where we presented 7 different motions and various amendments. and all of which geared directly to helping the people of St. Martin. Madam Chair, for example, the motion presented regarding the firing of workers due to their vaccination status. That is something that was happening rampantly in a period of confusion and misunderstanding of what the vaccination status should and should be, what the law prescribes can and cannot be done. All of those things were clarified very clearly by the Parliament of St. Martin in that motion I presented, and then the statement with the motion declared that the minister then echoed. We've since seen that the firing of people because of their vaccination status has stopped in St. Martin. We saw esports finally having the recognition that it deserves from this Parliament as a legitimate form of sport. We've already seen various esports events beginning to flourish, as well as organizations. And actually next month, we have an esports team that will be traveling to Puerto Rico to represent St. Martin at First Attack in Puerto Rico. Madam Chair, of course, the budget amendments. The budget amendments were highly debated many times in this Parliament. But I don't think when we see where the funds went to and where the funds was taken from, that it actually had a negative effect on the governance of the country, but on the contrary, a good one. Because to this day, Madam Chair, the Integrity Chamber is still open. They're still functioning. And we're almost out of this budgetary year. But the other councils, the Ministry of VSA and Ministry of Social Affairs, the Ministry of Economic Affairs have all received much needed funding to do things such as creating the agricultural policy, creating the investment policy, and all of the various reports that all of the, or extra support that all of the high councils have received as a result of the work that we have put in to provide those much needed funds, as well as Turning Point. Madam Chair, it would be remiss for me not to mention the work of the Minister Otley, and before him, the Ministers De Weaver and Lawrence, where as a reflection of the support they receive from this faction, have been able to do things in the interest of St. Martin. Economic development, surpassing all of the economic indicators that were predicted by the CFT. We see that the UP Minister Omar Otley, who now holds actually board portfolios, has taken things that have been sitting dormant for a long time, such as a hospital that for 8 or 6 years, there was zero progress. And now we finally see progress in just over a year of his term. We see the healthcare reforms coming to this Parliament that were much talked about, but no actual reforms being brought to the Parliament or passed by the Parliament of St. Martin. Madam Chair, on the contrary, what we've seen from previous ministers of health was a regression in labor legislation. As the minister recently pointed out, the removing of Article 614A actually caused more abuse of the 6-month contract, an amendment that I voted against. Madam Chair, the UP faction continues to support, especially our Minister Otley, who is doing many things in the areas of economy now, such as the basket of goods, agricultural policy, and others like I mentioned. The economy has continued to grow, and this is reflected in the amount of investment and large hotels that we see coming to St. Martin now. As I mentioned before, we will now, hopefully within the year 2023, be breaking grounds on the top 3 hotel chains in St. Martin in the world, which is the Marriott, Hilton, and IHG resorts being in St. Martin. But Madam Chair, in preparing for this as well, I said, let me see and review what we said last time in the closing and what we said now. And one of the key challenges we highlighted was, of course, our relationship and challenges with the Dutch government. Madam Chair, I remember telling everyone, I bet you this coho, you're not going to see a coho by the recess, because by the time we make our efforts to state our position for coho, we will see an entirely different direction made with the handling of the coho. And lo and behold, the coho apparently is back to another drawing board where we stood our ground and stated it was not good for St. Martin and it couldn't pass. But Madam Chair, in the statement last time that you stated, in conclusion, is also very important and salient. And that was at the end where you stated, none of us as leaders should allow our decisions to be dictated to us, especially when they harm our people, threaten their economic future and way of life. Standing up to a bully is always a good thing because it shows character and backbone. If you stand up for the people of St. Martin and the United People's Party, we will stand up with you. But if you continue to fall over every time and only show a willingness to play by the rules of others and not respect your role as leaders, then I remind you that the people will never forget. And Madam Chair, those words is exactly what I exemplify today. I think it's important to understand that while in the past we might have thought that attacks against leaders would come from the Netherlands, that only happened in 2 instances. It happened with Theodore Heiliger when a screening law was put in place that I believe clearly was geared towards him not becoming a minister. That was a Koninklijk Besluit, which has since expired, by the way. And the second time was William Marlin, when the Dutch intervened to have him removed from office. But Madam Chair, even those instances were brought upon by our own. There were calls made by members of Parliament to make sure he would not become a minister or make sure he would be removed. And this quote about not allowing others to undermine your leadership and to show the courage of your convictions to press forward in the interest of the people, the fact is, this often happens from within. This often happens with our own fellow leaders that are jockeying for position, that want to destroy leadership in government and in Parliament, instead of allowing the people to choose in the next election. Madam Chair, I think it's important for us to respect all our roles as leaders. The government has its leadership, we have our leadership here, but we also have to understand that in order to make St. Martin really shine and change the way we've done things in the past, as I said before, some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to be uncomfortable with that change. But when you believe that the leadership you exemplify takes St. Martin in the right decision, or in the right direction, then your decision will always be one that the people will support. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Bryson. Next, we have MP Melissa Gums of the People for Progress faction. Party for Progress faction. MP Melissa Gums, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair Lady, a pleasant good morning to you, Rafir, my colleagues in Parliament, the media, and most importantly to the men, women, and children of St. Martin watching or listening wherever they may be. Madam Chair Lady, we entered this parliamentary year last September faced with several of the same critical issues our country has been facing since becoming autonomous. The ever-present cohort discussion, for example, still continues within the kingdom, bringing with it the potential for reforms as well as confusion over its structure and its actual feasibility. There have been points of concern noted by the government, as well as most of my colleagues, including from this faction itself. We presented a position paper as well with an alternative that we believe to be viable and more comfortable for all involved. Some believe we do not need reforms. Some believe we do it but in our own time and at our own pace. And some just say no to everything that involves our largest kingdom partner. This discussion has even raised talks about what the concept of autonomy means for us. Autonomy, at its base, is having the right and the ability to choose. We all make choices in life, but in the end, our choices make us. And every day, I grow more concerned with what the choices we make have, the impact they have on the lives of our people. Because since the start of the last parliamentary year, we've seen the very behavior in government that has brought us to the point of needing serious structural reform. It's nothing new. In my generation, most of us have been seeing it since we could walk and talk. The same old has not only thrived under this government, it has evolved into a smoke and mirrors magic show of being different, but really it's been much of the same. In fact, the situation, if I listen to my constituents, has gotten considerably and measurably worse. I realized this when I was preparing my remarks for today, looking over what was discussed last year by myself and others. I realized that much of it was similar with the added factor of the current GEBE situation. For example, last year I said, quote, 1 year later, we're forced to admit that we are in exactly the same place in a horrifying cycle of political déjà vu. It's therefore incredibly disappointing to admit that while we may be 12 months along and in a different time and place, the problems we faced at the start of this year have evolved. Yet for some reason, those in power remain with much the same mindset as what brought us here. There has been through the lens that I have seen and through what the public has brought to me as their concern, an attack on accountability, starting with attacks on young professionals, attacks on our media, attacks on our high councils of state. I must focus, of course, Madam Chair, on the current situation at GEBE. Despite what has been said by the government, it still seems as though there is confusion about the way forward. And I'm concerned that the reaction times continue to be slow. But like much of our issues, GEBE is a man-made, St. Martin-made disaster. Last year, the Corporate Governance Council warned about the composition of the GEBE Supervisory Board, even though they did not outright disagree with their appointment. But Madam Chair, the government went ahead and appointed that board anyway. And that board did not react in time or in the right way to the ransomware attack on our country's only electricity provider. Competency requirements are put in place for exactly this reason. GEBE did not have the legal or financial expertise on their supervisory board to respond to the situation facing the company now. And yet competency requirements are widely ignored. And I have to say the uncomfortable thing that being from here does not equate to being the right person for the job. We continue to watch this situation unfold, and for me, with much bated breath. In regards to other attacks on accountability, Madam Chair, we've seen our High Council of State, the Ombudsman of St. Martin, alluded to being incompetent and unable to actually execute her job, even though concrete evidence of bid rigging in public tenders for garbage collection have come forward in a final report by that said same Ombudsman's office. An institution, I have to remind everyone, Madam Chair Lady, that works only on behalf of and in the best interest of the citizens of this country, like all members of Parliament have also sworn to do. And what happened? A majority of this House decided to look through their fingers and ignore clear wrongdoing and misspending of hard-earned local tax dollars in favor of blind loyalty. They chose to prop up what has been highlighted as an illegal and ineffective policy, written after the fact, as though it absolved the ministry of what had occurred. And again, some even went so far as to question the Ombudsman's competence and authority, and to, in effect, bully everyone who agreed with the report. This has become the norm, the action of the day. Further to that, Madam Chair, what we have observed as a faction, is a country moving towards a scenario where we attack those who question the decision-making of the government and who highlight critical issues and critical moves that at the end of the day impact people's lives. Investigative journalism has been branded as gossip or damaging to the country, when history has shown that when executed properly and fact-checked, it exposes corruption, failures of integrity, and breaches of trust between the government and its people. Fighting the media, which brings the information to the population, is not the way that we should move towards as a country. And it is this, Madam Chair Lady, that's most worrying to me and has been most worrying to me throughout this parliamentary year. This resistance to accountability and this ignorance of responsibility, which has almost always been followed by government and its supporters, whether in or out of parliament, downplaying the raised concerns and sometimes flat out accusing, especially this faction, of bullying and fear-mongering, of turning things political. For the people to be aware, Madam Chair Lady, using fact-based research and critical thinking to ask perceptive questions is not bullying, nor is it harassment. I understand why those who rely on emotional pandering and empty talks about integrity and country about self would look at critical thinking as a scary exercise in reality. So I never take it to heart. However, I take it personally when these same weak arguments are used to confuse the people and spread disinformation that supports a dangerous narrative, that if you speak out against what a government is doing, or especially in this case not doing, you are somehow against the country. That, Madam Chair Lady, is Gestapo tactics. It is not political or incorrect to question one's government in whatever capacity you hold. It does not speak to any personal agenda when we are critical. It is out of concern for the lives of the people and how government and parliament's decisions impact their lives. That is what hangs in the balance, again. people's lives. We see it again at GEBE, where those who have caused incomparable damage to our country's only source of water and light have been protected for close to a decade under the excuse that they're from here. One person elevated above the well-being and health of 60,000. Again, this is not new. My generation has been witnessing this unfortunate phenomenon since we could read. People throw around terms like national pride, agenda, and integrity as a way to kick up dust, but there's often nothing behind it other than wanting things to go their way, because those terms only apply to the other, those who don't agree with or vote alongside them. Meanwhile, the toll of the last 5 years is beginning to show. The population is exhausted, Madam Chair Lady, and I said this as well last time. Madam Chair Lady, we remain at a critical and pivotal moment in our history. We cannot hide behind being a young country for much longer, because we've been doing this for longer than 12 years. Everything has been in our hands since before October 2010. Again, the choices that we make. I know it will be difficult. It will require changing minds and going against the way we have always done things. And with that in mind, I leave my colleagues and the people with this from Irish playwright and political activist George Bernard Shaw. Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Gums. Next, we have Independent Member of Parliament, Akeem Arundel. MP Arundel, you have the floor.
Good morning, Member of Parliament. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, support staff, radio listeners, and Facebook viewers. I have never been a man of many words. I'm more of a hand type of person. Some people know that, some people don't know that. When I do speak, it's for a valid reason. As we conclude this parliamentary year and look forward to the new parliamentary year, I will do my best to be more outspoken and more proactive as well. As a parliament, I feel we are too easily distracted, and we need to remain focused to improve our country's matter. Thank you, Madam Chair. That we are.
Thank you, MP Arundel. Next, we have MP George Ponteflet of the National Alliance faction. MP Ponteflet, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to my colleagues in Parliament. Good morning to those that are viewing and those that are probably listening by radio, Madam Chair. Can I have about 8 minutes from my former speaker's time, Madam Chair? Madam Chair, in preparing the speech for this morning, one of the things that I looked at is our Constitution. And the preamble states as follows: we, the people of St. Martin, affirm that we acknowledge the guiding principles of Almighty God as the core of our values. We acknowledge the guiding principles of Almighty God as a core of our values. And Madam Chair, the question I ask myself, are we doing such? I know there might be those who don't believe in God, so that's up to them, but I'm saying based on our Constitution, the preamble states clearly that we acknowledge the guiding principles of Almighty God as a core value. Madam Chair, Article 56, our Constitution, we took an oath to serve the people of St. Martin. Article 56, it reads, the members of the Parliament shall make the following oath, declaration and promise. I swear, declare that I have never or neither given nor promised anything, nor shall I give or promise anything however described and under any pretext to anyone whomsoever, either directly or indirectly in connection with my election as a member of Parliament. I swear, promise that I shall not accept any promise, gift from anyone at all, either directly or indirectly, in order to do or refrain from doing anything in the course of this appointment. I swear that I shall always help to uphold the Constitution of St. Martin, and that I shall champion the interests of St. Martin to the best of my ability. So help me, Almighty God. Madam Chair, I read this because I want to bring us back to why we as members of Parliament are here and what we're supposed to do. We are supposed to represent all the people of St. Martin to the best of our abilities. Madam Chair, there's some changes that must take place, probably during the upcoming election, because I think it is important for the stability of the government or governments in order to be able to achieve that which is necessary for the people of St. Martin. Madam Chair, we started out the parliamentary year 2021 with 5 political parties: NA, UP, USP, PFP, UD, and an independent, not a political party, an independent member of Parliament. Today, as we are closing off the parliamentary year 2021-2022, we find ourselves with nine factions, but I will say not political parties. Independent members of Parliament, not parties, Madam Chair, not political parties. The Rules of Order, Article 18 and 90, prescribes exactly how the process has to go. Whereas if a member leaves the party, he or she becomes a faction. But Madam Chair, a faction is not a political party. And this is why I said we have to make changes to these Rules of Order and changes to these laws, Madam Chair. Because, Madam Chair, what you find happening is that it increases the finances of the budget of Parliament, because each individual member of Parliament, or in this case, independent member, is allowed 2 additional staff, which means more expenditures. It means equipment, supplies, and so on, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, I think it is only fair that we ensure that in the future going forward, that instead of being a faction, Madam Chair, you should be able to be a political party. Being an independent member of Parliament, Madam Chair, that's your rights, even though, if you look at elections, no, to date, as far as I know right now, no one in the last few elections has elected him or herself. It is by postulating yourself on the political party. The party won the amount of votes that entitle them to the amount of seats, and based on your position on the list, you are able to enter as a member of Parliament, or if those who are above you become ministers, then you get a position to be part or to become a member of Parliament. That's how it's done. So, Madam Chair, I believe that it is important that we come with those changes. If you want to be part of the electoral process, register an electoral council and run as a party. But it should not be that you run on a party, Madam Chair, because of the party, the amount of votes it gets and the seats allocated, then you can declare yourself independent and become a faction, not a political party, Madam Chair. So these changes have to be made. Madam Chair, you know what's interesting? We had talk about change, and there's no change. And I'm sure maybe those of you who go on Facebook will hear where they're saying, that the older ones have to go. We need the young ones to take over, Madam Chair, and I agree with that. But Madam Chair, if you do a calculation, Right now, the 15 members of parliament, there are 3 of us that are of pensionable age, if I'm correct. The other 12, Madam Chair, is not of pensionable age. And as a matter of fact, the way the ages are being increased, who knows when? Who knows when, Madam Chair? So what I'm saying, the change has already begun. Madam Chair, it appears that there's some ties to farmers, Madam Chair, that still does the same modus operandi all the time. So, Madam Chair, if you want change, you got to be the change, Madam Chair. You got to be the change. You see, I'm tired myself of the old political rhetoric, Madam Chair. The last few months, to be honest, I was so discouraged, Madam Chair, because of the nonsense, the infighting. The things that, yes, are important, but not as important as the entire country, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, let me read this from the Donna. I can't get into my issue of the debt cancellation because you said I have 2 minutes only. I quote from Donna Zajunk. She's a political leadership coach. And this is what she said, Madam Chair. She said, and this is how I felt, she said, you may be an elected official who ran for office out of a sincere desire to be a conscious political leader and to uphold right action as a public servant. And now maybe, despite your best efforts, you are drowning in a sea of dysfunctional politics that seems systematically to thwart your best efforts at making a difference. Meanwhile, increasing number of the very public you seek to serve are not on your side. The morning paper, because somebody mentioned the issue of the media, the morning paper and the evening news pour out endless gossip about crooked politicians. Comic strips and comedians, I would add politicians, I would add calypsonians, as usual, find political leaders an easy target, except that the kidding or the joking has taken on a biting edge. And what this has done, Madam Chair, is tell professionals, Madam Chair, you know something, I better stop this because it is too nasty for me. So, Madam Chair, the change that I want to see, as I mentioned, is the issue of the articles in the rules of order in order to ensure that things are run properly. Again, thank you very much, and God bless the people of St. Martin.
Thank you, MP Pontefract. Next, we have MP Sarah Westcott-Williams of the United Democrats faction. MP Westcott-Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and good morning. Good morning to you, Madam Chair Lady. Good morning to our Secretary General. To my esteemed colleagues in Parliament, good morning, and to the listening and viewing audience of this meeting, good morning. Blessed week to all. Much strength as you embark on this new week in a time which is always full of anxiety, the time being, of course, at least what I'm referring to, in hurricane season. And as I always like to say, you needed to have experienced what it's like going through a hurricane to understand the collective psyche of the people of St. Martin during a season like this. And I start out like this because, like one of my colleagues at the closing of Parliament last year, I wondered about even coming here to hold a discourse at the closing of Parliament. My colleague at the time was convinced to still be here, which he did. That's MP Christophe Emmanuel. And he came and he took part in the closing of Parliament. I'm talking about last year. But I had a similar feeling earlier. And then when I read the latest reports coming from our government, I was like, wow, saved by the bell. Saved by the bell. But in my opinion, the proverbial bell is still tolling. Madam Chair Lady, what do I mean by saved by the bell? Well, I would want to believe and hope that we have a very consensus government at this time. Not only the 6, soon to be 7 ministers sitting in office, but also the persons supporting the coalition. And I can only go by media reports, because unlike in any other democratic country, democratic and civilized country, the Parliament of St. Martin, up to this moment, does not know who is the majority supporting the current government in office. Yeah, we have been told that the governor has been informed. We have been told that things have been secured. Well, I can only hope, in the interest of the people of St. Martin, that 2.5 months of negotiating to broaden the basis of the coalition has led to a very consensus, new, expanded, broadened coalition. Madam Chair Lady, tomorrow, God's willing, we will be witness to a presentation by His Excellency, the Governor of St. Martin. I think it's important to stress and explain that this presentation is not of His Excellency, the Governor. It is not what the Governor thinks, wishes, and professes for St. Martin. What the Governor presents tomorrow, Tuesday, God's willing, is actually the statement, the declaration of the government, whoever, of St. Martin. That's what we'll be hearing tomorrow. So it would be interesting when one hears that the new coalition supports the governing accord signed back in maybe 2020 it was. I don't know, because that particular coalition accord was never debated in Parliament, never ever. And even when we receive the presentation tomorrow by His Excellency the Governor on behalf of the government, on behalf of the 6, hopefully soon to be 7 ministers, we don't have a proposal for a budget. And Madam Chair Lady, you know one of my constant tunes that I sing is that much of what we are doing, and it goes for today and tomorrow as well, here on St. Martin, are things and procedures that we adopted. Not all of them good, but some of them yes. And actually, a presentation, which we'll be having tomorrow, Tuesday, on behalf of the government of St. Martin. What is the use of hearing that presentation when we can't compare it with numbers, with a draft budget, at least a note going into 2023? What's the use of hearing all of the lofty goals? And outside of that, the government that has been saved by the bell and is telling us, well, we all support a governing accord between the NA and the UP of 2020, but outside of that, we're hearing so much, and which makes me wonder whether the individual ministers of government are cognizant of the fact that they should not be expressing any type of intentions, large or small, with financial consequences, without having randees by the government, by the COM, and by the Minister of Finance. Madam Chair Lady, when we bring matters such as this in the House of Parliament, of course, you're going to have some of those in here who are going to run and take up the National Accountability Ordinance and see the exact opposite to what we're saying. But there's some things that cannot be denied, and this is one of them. So I tell the people of St. Martin, take it easy. Let them come out with they're not even intentions. What I see coming from individual ministers are whims. Whims of this, whims of that. And for a population that currently is so stressed, all of these things are coming over like, where are we going? Where are we going from here? So, Madam Chair Lady, obviously I decided to be here, and I look at things like the coho. That transpires from one parliamentary year into the next because we are still facing the issue of a coho. While the government that took 2.5 months to broaden the base and then tell us they're agreeing with the coalition accord from 2020, but not one of them got up here and explained the status of not only the coho and the new proposal that is with the state secretary, but neither has the country package been addressed. That is more relevant than the coalition accord from 2020. Madam Chair Lady, the 12.5% and the law that is before us now to undo the termination, which was in the law that is current, of the vacation allowance. What happens to the others that also had some type of 12.5% cut from their benefits and salaries? Madam Chair Lady, as I mentioned before, a government declaration tomorrow, not a number, not a figure, nothing, not even an indication of a budget of 2023. We are still trying to get the amended budget 2022 here in Parliament. Oh yeah, but many of my colleagues, not many, few of my colleagues, they get a mifted. Oh yeah, you know, the opposition should at least leave the government do. Leave the government do what? Leave the government do what? Madam Chair Lady, I heard my colleague refer to the issue of GEBE. What about the analysis of all government-owned companies that based on the country package had to take place? Are all coalition members in favor of that happening? Where is it? Where is the corporate governance policy that was supposed to be developed? So, Madam Chair Lady, as I said before, for the sake of respect, I will be here and hearing what the governor is going to put forward on behalf of the government of St. Martin, of the ministers, of those supporting the ministers. And Madam Chair Lady, I believe the following day, the Parliament of St. Martin should get together to debate that which has been presented and understand how the members stand, how the individual members stand on the issues of the governing coalition, governing accord 2020, now supported by a new base that no one's really sure who exactly form part of the base. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Next, we have Independent Member of Parliament, Christophe Emmanuel. MP Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Good morning. Yes, the voice. But it will have to work for what it is today. Madam Chair Lady, good morning to you, our Khafid, my honorable colleagues, and the people of St. Martin. Good morning. And everyone who's watching and listening, by whichever means, good morning. Madam Chair, now, what we are witnessing, what we are living, is the worst government in the history of St. Martin that the people of St. Martin have ever seen. Madam Chair Lady, what we have today is an abusive government. Madam Chair, I listen to my colleagues that all of a sudden, because of convenience, independent members that ran on a list and gone independent, Madam Chair, we should look in the Constitution and see how that can be changed. If that is the case, Madam Chair, we have independent members supporting the coalition and the government today. Why are you not asking for that to be changed? But this is a convenience, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair, nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, it has gotten worse from last year to this year. Madam Chair, we have seen a government that have abused its citizens. Madam Chair, look at the newspapers today. From time of Hurricane Irma to now, you have citizens in the country still crying, bawling, screaming for help, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, the people of St. Martin and this country is going through a situation that we have never ever seen it before. We have never lived it before. And this is a government, Madam Chair, that simply don't care about its citizens. Madam Chair, we are coming out and we have moved forward from 10-10-10 to now. And the question is, with the longest serving government, what are the changes? What are the difference that they have made now? Absolutely nothing. Madam Chair, what we have seen is a government that have disrespected the media, disrespected the high councils, scandals after scandals. And what do you get? Cheerleaders trying to sell ice to Eskimos and saying why this is the best government ever. Madam Chair Lady, we are witnessing dissent because of loyalty. Madam Chair Lady, we are witnessing dissent because of loyalty. Madam Chair, people of St. Martin, every government-owned company in this country today, every government-owned company in this country today is lacking leadership. And why, Madam Chair? Because in this country today, Madam Chair, you don't have leaders, you have dealers, and everyone is making a deal to solidify their position. Madam Chair, the airport is in a scandal. The hospital is in a scandal. GB is in a scandal. Telem not paying the shares to its workers. The harbor is in a scandal. You name it, Madam Chair. We have never ever seen this before in this country. Why? Why, Madam Chair? Because we have a country that is rudderless. We have a country that lacks leadership. We have a country that has no direction. And why is that, Madam Chair? Why is that? Because today we see the hypocrisy of a coalition government. Madam Chair Lady, we see a government that when they was forming and the members said, let us form with these individuals, the government and the largest coalition of the National Alliance said, no, we cannot, because these people, the strong government, these people are not good for St. Martin. But today, Madam Chair Lady, lock, sinker, barrel, and stock, they are 1, 2, 3 peas in a pod. Today, Madam Chair Lady, a government of hypocritical convenience, Madam Chair. And these are the reasons why the country is facing the situation as it is. Let us call it out and say it. Madam Chair, a coalition, a majority. Where are the numbers? Where's the accord? Where are the signatures, Madam Chair? Where is it? The governor can say whatever he wants to say, but it's incumbent on the Prime Minister of this country to prove to the people of St. Martin that she's comfortable with a majority in Parliament. Where is it, Madam Chair Lady? Madam Chair, I can go on and on and on and speak of things that's happening today. 12.5%. Madam Chair Lady, we still have teachers today that are screaming and saying, where is my vacation pay? We have a government today that have divided and drawn the line in the sand, whether you're a subsidized teacher or you're a public school teacher, whether you're inherent and whether you are not, Madam Chair Lady. We have a government today that cannot fix that issue. And their simple example and their reason is our backs are against the walls. Your back is against the wall on your own people. Madam Chair, now it's time for the people of St. Martin to reject what we have seen today. Now is the time for the people of St. Martin to demand better. Now is the time for the people of St. Martin to say, we deserve more. Now is the time, Madam Chair Lady, for the people of St. Martin to say, I have had enough of the worst government in the history of St. Martin, which is this present coalition led by the National Alliance. I thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. Next, we have Independent Member of Parliament, MP Solange Duncan. MP Duncan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleagues here in Parliament. A good morning to the SG, and a good morning to the people of St. Martin tuned in. This parliamentary year, Madam Chair Lady, in my humble opinion, has been about the evolution of party politics on St. Martin. I remember speaking to a friend in 2020. I think we made a bet, I'm not sure, but according to him, everything is going to stay the same because you have the same players in the same game. And I disagreed with that because I was a new player, maybe in the old game, but I said that things will not stay the same. Something just told me things wouldn't stay the same. In a series of interesting events, Madam Chair, especially over the last year, we have seen, for me and at least some of my colleagues, that we will hold not only ourselves, but each other accountable. It's all about accountability. That's a buzzword for the year. Now more than ever, Madam Chair, we need leaders in this country with integrity and that are leading on the principles of good governance. Not leading because they got the most votes, not leading because they think they're smarter than everyone else, leading on principles used to run countries everywhere in the world. Principles also of ethical decision making. Madam Chair, I hope this last year in Parliament have shifted the perception of our people that things are not staying the same, but rather improving. That change is happening, maybe a little bit, by little bit, but it is happening, and that is something that I am proud to be a part of. Our electoral, Madam Chair, our electoral system, as that politicians run on a political party, and when they are elected, they take an oath, an individual oath, to represent the interests of all of the people of St. Martin. The Constitution and Article 44 in particular talks about the entire population of St. Martin, and according to the explanatory note, it says that the representation of the people of St. Martin bears no relationship to the electoral system on the basis of which the members are elected. So to me, Madam Chair, more than focusing on members saying that they no longer align with the party and moving away from the party, we should focus on the quality of persons coming into this chamber to represent the people. To me, that's what we should be focusing on. In reflecting on the last year, Madam Chair, that I have had in Parliament, I look back at very proud moments, such as chairing our first roundtable panel discussion on amending the Kingdom Charter. We invited both local and international or kingdom experts to discuss eliminating those democratic deficits that keep us unequal in the kingdom. In my view, Madam Chair, the work of the Committee for Constitutional Affairs and Decolonization will continue to play a very important role, not only in nation building, not only here locally, but also allowing our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean to redefine who we see or how we see ourselves as citizens in this kingdom. So I look forward to being a part of this movement. I am also very proud, Madam Chair, of the adoption of my motion in January 2022 on the further development of history, heritage, and civics curriculum in secondary education in particular. Our young people have engaged Parliament, especially over the last year, multiple times. In June 2021, representatives from the Teen Times presented a request for pending initiatives regarding the development of a comprehensive St. Martin history course for secondary schools. Our young people demanded, and they continue to demand, that the government improve how they learn, in effect, how we see ourselves as a St. Martin people, our identity. And it is my personal mission, Madam Chair, to do whatever I can do in this capacity to ensure that as a country we make strides in curriculum development in these areas, and that most importantly, our young people feel like they have a space and a voice in this Parliament. Madam Chair, I was speaking to a gentleman recently who asked me directly, how are you politicians going to convince the people to go out and vote next election with everything that is going on? He went on to share his disappointment about how seniors continue to be treated in this country or not adequately cared for.
He talked about the situation at GB, the lack of proper leadership and management. He talked about the slow construction or reconstruction of homes following Irma 5 years ago. Madam Chair, I listened to him and I could only agree. How many of our people feel the same way, Madam Chair? I think that is what we should be asking ourselves. I am reminded always that I have a responsibility, not only in this house, but outside of this house, to serve the people diligently with respect and a sense of urgency. Now, because of the economic and social realities in this country, our young people probably feel that we are failing them. Our seniors continue to struggle. Are we really working for them? We have some of the most creative and talented people, I believe, in the world, but we are still not presenting opportunities for them to not only grow, but develop this country. Madam Chair, we need to represent the people by increasing civic participation, not quieting our people, not hiding from them, but actually giving them a greater voice so that they may not feel powerless, but empowered. We have a responsibility to achieve more, and not for us, but for future generations. We are now a part of a long line of politicians to come in and to do what? What will we achieve? It has been my honor to serve over the last 2 years, over the last year especially, Madam Chair, and I will continue to serve my people, our people, more effectively, with dignity, with integrity, because that is what is important in the new year. And so, in the words of Dr. Cornel West, I look to my colleagues and I say, we can't lead the people if we don't love the people. We can't save the people if we don't serve the people. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Duncan. Last on the speakers list, we have Independent Member of Parliament, MP Ludmila De Wever. MP De Wever, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair Lady, Khifir, my colleague members of Parliament, and the viewing and listening public. This has not been a year as usual. A year which for me was divided partially with my transition into Parliament from the executive branch of government, where we were restoring our economy, our economic base of tourism, and rebuilding our economy during the worst period of our lives, the COVID pandemic. Today, that pandemic effects are still a clear and present danger. I say that if we cannot move this island to greatness, there is very little reason one should be here at all. We must remember that this is a parliament sitting by the authority and vote of the good people of our island. A parliament open and visible to be seen by everyone. What would have been a glorious thing to behold is seeing a government unite the good people of St. Martin. But what do we find instead? Some may say that instead of a government uniting, we have corruption or signs of corruption, division, distrust, dissatisfaction, and disapproval. Some may say that the much needed stability came at a cost of integrity. I got involved under my belief that politics is about people. And the vision I see for St. Martin is one shaped by the real needs of our people, and not a select few. I ask their God to give us, the members of Parliament, the strength and, more importantly, the courage to do exactly that, to bring people back at the forefront of our decision-making. Our sweet St. Martin land must prosper for the people of this country in the widest reaching sense of it. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP De Wever. And in general, I'd like to thank the faction leaders for your speeches today. Ladies and gentlemen, as President of Parliament of St. Martin, I too have the following remarks. Many of the speakers today before me were able to summarize 2021-2022 in great details. My complete summary can be found in my foreword of the annual report of 2021-2022 of Parliament. And as a subsequent thereof, I choose to address you, my fellow colleagues, today with words that would hopefully resonate with everyone and inspire all of us in Parliament to make the coming parliamentary year a better one for the people who we serve. The past year has been extremely eventful and has seen many distractions from within and outside of Parliament, including personal attacks and questionable individual actions. These distractions, in my humble opinion, have damaged the image of this honorable House. They have also kept some of us from focusing legislatively. In addition to supervising and holding government accountable, some of us were not able to focus on amending and creating new laws that could have potentially benefited our people. As a Parliament, we need to give the people the representation they deserve, both individually and collectively. We need to do more and do better. And I don't exclude myself from that assignment. We just have one more parliamentary year left before elections. Let us raise the level of this honorable House in every sense of the word, to the benefit of the people who we serve. Let us show up and sign in on time and ensure that there's always quorum for meetings. Let us do our homework on certain topics, deliberate and ask the pertinent questions to help our people get a better understanding of the topic at hand. Let us work hand in hand with our Secretariat and facilitate them by sending the questions in writing, responding to the requests in a timely manner in order to have an efficient and effective working Parliament. Let us be accountable for our actions in and outside of Parliament at all times. The people who elected and pay us deserve nothing less. So while I call on us as MPs to restore the respect Parliament should command, I'm also calling on government to honor and respect Parliament as its highest legislative body of the nation. In previous years on St. Martin, ministers would immediately come to Parliament when requesting to do so. They were always prepared and would answer most or all questions on the spot, sometimes without any notes, and sometimes without needing advisors and our civil servants. Some of those former ministers are still in Parliament today, so they can testify to this as well. Just a few days ago in Curaçao, Prime Minister Pisas answered more than 100 questions in Parliament during one session, after an adjournment of 4 hours. Why shouldn't we be able to do the same? So when Parliament requests the presence of ministers, I implore each and every minister to be readily available and ready to answer. Because as one senior MP would repeatedly say in the past, many times, the people have the right to know. And we need to respect that. This is their house, not ours. In closing, my fellow colleagues, and in addition to discipline, efficiency, and transparency, I call on all of us to always show respect, dignity, and maturity as we take the people's business in all seriousness. Lastly, I would like to make mention of the fact that I will be presenting the annual President of Parliament Award to a young person who is a great example to the youth and who has contributed positively to the community and country during tomorrow's reception to celebrate the opening of Parliamentary year 2022-2023. This young person was elected by a committee based on criteria that was set by this Parliament. Furthermore, several persons in the community who contributed towards taking care of our seniors in one way or the other will be acknowledged. The theme for this opening is keeping seniors engaged and resilient. All members of Parliament will receive a copy of the Annual Report 2021-2022 of Parliament Friday, September 23rd. The key word used for this year's annual report is resilience. This report gives an overview of the work done by Parliament during the past parliamentary year. As was done in previous years, the report will be provided to members of Parliament in a digital form, USB only. It will also be available to members and staff on the P drive. And most importantly, the report will be available on our website as well. My colleague members of Parliament, support staff, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank everyone for your participation throughout this parliamentary year. And thank you for your participation in this final meeting of this year. I would like to take this opportunity in wishing the entire community of St. Martin God's richest blessings as we move forward to a fruitful and effective new parliamentary year, which will commence tomorrow. I hereby close this meeting and this parliamentary year 2021-2022.